All right, I'm going to show you how to graph some data. Let's see if we can get this whole thing right here. Let's see if this works right here. How to effectively graph some data in the form of a line graph plus or minus standard deviations. All right. So here we've got some data. Here's a data set for a particular student experiment. There were 3 different treatments right here, 20 degrees centigrade. Let's see if I can fix this a little bit right here. 20 degrees centigrade was the control. There were 3 replicates of that experiment that went over 14 days. And then another experiment where the same thing was done, but at 15 degrees centigrade, 3 replicates, 14 days each. And then the same thing done with 45 degrees centigrade. And the data collected is absorption units right here. These you'll recognize these sort of numbers right here as being absorbance units with a high value up in the 1.3, 1.4 region. All right, and it is the growth of chlorella under different pH, under different temperatures. In this particular case. All right, and so here's the raw data that was given. So the first thing you want to do when you graph this data is go ahead and generate your descriptive statistics, which is mean and standard deviation. And if it was a really long list, we'd go ahead and include n in here as well, which is going to be 3 in all cases. So if you really wanted to be, completely rigorous, you'd go ahead and put that in there as well. N is going to be 3 in all cases right here. So I'll go ahead and add that in there just for the sake of completeness. Paste. There we go. All right, because it's the same answer in all cases. So there's our descriptive statistics, mean, standard deviation, and the number count for the record. You're supposed to do that. Nobody really cares if it's 3, but if this was 75 or 150 or 300 or something like that, nobody could look at it. We need to go ahead and put that in here as well. Okay. Especially if they differ, if they're different from one treatment to another. Now, to make it easy to graph, I've gone ahead and included the key stuff that I want on the graph, and I've put it together in one little mini table down here. So I took the days and I rewrote them in a way that will make more sense. I didn't like this arrangement here with 14 and day being just one thing, so I broke it up. This would work too. I just did it this way because I think it reads better. I included the treatments right here, and then the means. These are just the means. So this is the means 0.08, 0.62. You'll see that they are those values. 0.08, 0.12. 0.08, 0.12, 0.116, rounds to 0.12, of course. Speaking of these numbers right here, a little trick, if you don't know this in Excel, you can take this little symbol up here and you can add digits to everything, or you can subtract digits to it. So you can get rid of those endless long digits. I like to keep it at 2 digits to the right of the decimal place if the raw data supports it. Our raw data has that many significant units, so that's okay for these here. We wouldn't want to add more digits than our raw data contain to start with. Anyway, this is ready to go right here. So I'm going to select the whole thing and have it graph it. All right, so let's see how this works. I'm going to shrink this down a little bit so we've got more space to look at. And don't ignore that one. It's one I did earlier as a proof of concept. I'm going to go ahead and graph this. All right, so I'm going to hit Insert, and I'm going to come up here where I've got this pile of graphs, and I'm going to go for the things that look like line graphs, because that's what I want. And I want one that looks like this with data points on it. Lines with markers, stacked line with markers. There we go. And you'll notice this one has 1.6. It goes from 0 to 1.6 on the x-axis here. So that looks pretty good. And it's already written it down as day 0 through day 14 right here, and it's given a name to each one of my lines. So if you want to get that taken care of, set up a table like this and select all of it for graphing, and then Excel is pretty clever and knows what to do with it, and you'll get a graph that looks like what you want. And you can, of course, edit your title up here. Cell density or cell growth as as a function of time at various pH levels. So something like that. I'm not sure that's a great title, but it's better than title. So anyway, there's our graph. All right. I'm going to go ahead and see if I can make this a little bigger. Can I? Yes, I can. So we're making it bigger just so we can see it. All right. I've stretched it more. That looks about right. All right. So we've got this chart in order, and it's looking good. We've got a title on it. We've got our x-axis and our y-axis. We'll need to add a label to our y-axis that this is in absorption units, but we can do that later. The thing that's difficult is how to add error bars to these lines right here. All right, so there's a few different ways you can get at this, but if we click on the graph, just anywhere on the graph, we get these little symbols over here on the right. And what we want to do is click this, and we're going to add some other stuff to it. So it's already got some features here. Axis titles, we could get that taken care of in a minute. Okay. But what we want to concentrate on is error bars. So we're going to do error bars, and I could, give it error bars. And notice it just gave it some error bars. What the heck are these? And more importantly, notice they're all the same. So those aren't the error bars we want. We want more. All right. We want something else. Add error bars. So we're going to do it to this group right here. So now we're in good shape right here. We're just looking at error bars for this particular series right here. Okay, so how did I get there? Let's go back. Let's do all of this. Let's undo all of this stuff for just a second. Let's do this. Let's undo the error bars here. Okay. All right, so some terminology. This is a series. This is one data series, 45 degrees centigrade. Here's another data series, 15 degrees centigrade. Here's another data series, 20 degrees centigrade. All right, so that's what we mean by a series. All right, so again, I click on this. I make it chart elements. I'm going to open it up, and it says error bars are on, but we're going to go ahead and look for options, and we're going to work on one of these series. So, okay, it brings me up a dialog that I can work with. Okay, so we could do a fixed value, 0.2. We could do standard deviation, and what that's done is standard deviation of everything. I don't know what the heck's going on there. Standard error. We want custom. All right, and we're going to specify the value. And the positive, we want, the standard error to be standard deviation. We want to have plus and minus the standard deviation. So that's what's coming from. So now we need to go back and go find the stuff we need. So we're looking at the 20 degree data. So that's this one right here. Here's our standard deviation. And I'm going to list these numbers right here. And then for the negative value, I'm going to do the same thing. It's these numbers right here, the standard deviations for the 20 degree control. And then we're going to hit OK. And look at that. And most importantly, they look really similar. That's because the numbers are really similar. But look, 0.3, 0.5, 0.4, 0.7 on the fourth increment. 1, 2, 3, 4. And there's that bigger 0.7 right here, and these are smaller. So this worked. This is what we wanted. Let's go ahead and do it to the next one. All right, I'm going to click this. I'm going to click this and here. I'm going to go for here. I'm going to add error bars. I'm going to go for more options. I'm going to go for custom. I'm going to specify the value. And what's it going to be? Standard deviation. We're at the 15 degree data, so that's this right here. You can always fix this if you select incorrectly. I'm going to do this right here. Select those again. And hit OK. There was a little editing. There was a little bit of the old thing in there. Okay, good. And it works. So there we've got standard. And notice this one's small. This one's a little bit bigger. The numbers don't vary a heck of a lot. 0.3, 0.03, 0.03, 0.03, 0.05, 0.04. There's not a lot of variation, but they are different. And you can see they're different here. This is bigger than that. 0.5 is bigger than 0.3. Good. Last one. Get rid of this thing again. It just pops up and gets in our way. going to click on this. Going to hit add some stuff. We want error bars. We've already got it. It's, noticing. We want to do custom again. We want to do specify the value. And this is going to be our 4 degrees centigrade, the last of these right here. So here's our standard errors for those guys. Small at the beginning. Let's do this right here. Why is that doing that? Okay. And there we go. Standard errors on all 3 lines. The real standard errors generated from the data. A little bit tedious. Excel's not perfect at this stuff, but it does work. Now, as the last little thing, what could we do here? Let's get rid of that. Let's format. We want to add axis titles. Yes. What do we want to do? And yeah, it's already there, so now it's just a matter of adding it in here. We'll go ahead and write it. And this is going to be cell abundance measured with cell abundance absorbance at, and I don't recall what wavelength they used for this, but let's say it was 420 nanometers. Oops, very tiny nanometers. Okay, so there we go. So there's our graph, ready to go. I'll magnify it, and we'll take a closer look at it right here. And you can change colors and do all kinds of stuff like that. It's good to go. Got a label here, got a title. We've got our days down here. That's pretty self-explanatory. And we've got a legend explaining what each line represents and what symbol represents each line. Good. So hopefully that was helpful.